We are back, and we are on location this time with a special guest. He is three-time MMA World Champion, former UFC fighter, inventor, author, and now Minnesota District 3 Congressional Candidate. Brad Kohler, how are you?
Hey Ryan, Howard, good to see you guys. How you doing? Good.
So you got a really interesting story, and there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about today. But first, I want to talk about what it is that brought you to get into politics.
As a businessman, I was really always shied away from talking about politics because one of the things that brings up emotion and controversy is politics. So I really never got into it ever. I didn't vote until I got into this, um, and but I lost my businesses from the COVID scamdemic in 2020, and it's between losing my two gyms and my manufacturing. I wasn't very happy about that because I took my retirement and invest into these two gyms that I wanted to start franchising with my combo hitter line of boxing products, and and they shut us down, and it was very frustrating that they made these decisions that were just not the right decisions. I mean, here we are abiding by the laws, and people that weren't abiding by the laws are destroying our city and not wearing a mask, certainly not following the curfew rules. And then on top of all that, our elected government officials that are elected to protect and serve, let our cities be destroyed. Let these people, go out there and create havoc and steal and kill, and yet nobody has gone to jail for that just yet. People have destroyed and robbed businesses, and no one's gone to jail for it. And so, to me, I never say I've had enough or I'm too tired of this. And last thing I want to do is, murmur about it and um, complain to my friends. So I decided to step up and do something about it. And I've done crazy things in the past that I thought, wow, what am I going to do? How are people going to judge me? What are they going to say about me? Like, here's little old me inventing this product. I was like, no one's going to think I came up with this great idea, and I did. So for me, this is doing just what I do. Not being afraid to go after something I feel strong about. So once I have the passion for something, it's really hard to stop me until I get there. It took me 10 years to perfect the combo hitter and the haymaker, and boom, now it's one of the best boxing apparatuses on the market. But and I ran for state senate. I had a good candidate, good race, but so I wasn't sure after losing the Senate race that I was going to run again. I was really, like, okay, I really want to do this, but, what office kind of thing. And I thought about running for House, because it's a 2-year thing. Then there was, the county engineer. And then the seat came up here in CD3 with Dean Phillips stepping down to run for presidency. And I really was kind of pondering all this stuff. And I ran into a woman at Walmart. She said, "Oh, you're that guy that ran for Senate last year. I voted for you." And I said, "Oh, thank you. I appreciate that." And she goes, "I'm having a problem with my van that I bought, and I won't mention the dealership, but I was driving the kids to football. The car overheated, and I pulled over, and I had to have the car towed in. It's fully under warranty." She showed me all the warranty stuff, and I go, bumper to bumper. You buy from this dealership, and it's covered for the life of the car. Okay, it had on everything on there that you could imagine you should be covered for, right? Her and her father paid $30,000 for this van, and so the dealership's giving this runaround. And I was like, okay, well, let me talk to him. So I tried talking to him, and yep, it's sorry, it's going to be $17,000 to repair this engine. Well, it says right here, though, you cover that part. Well, you pushed the car too hard when it was overheating, so it warped the block, but the block is covered. So all of these things that I'm reading and I'm listening to this guy just lie. So then I talked to the warranty company, listen to them just lie. And so I talked to an attorney, $5,000 to just get started. So why am I running? I am tired of the big screwing the small, the rich screwing the poor, the strong screwing the weak. Someone's got to step up. I want to be one of those people that say, when you write your congressman, and that's me, something's going to be done about it. So that's why I'm running.
Okay.
I think throughout the country right now, there's a real feeling of that every politician we're seeing is a career politician, and that's what they've always done, and they've grown up with a silver spoon in their mouth.
Yeah.
And there is a real sense of like a ruling class, and then the rest of us, right? So I think so many people are just looking for someone who is going to actually follow through with action.
Well, work for the people instead of working for themselves.
And work for the people. You know, and that's one of the things that I like about you is that, you know, you've dealt with a lot of adversity in your life. You've come from a normal upbringing, just like every random average Joe, right?
So I got a question for you too, is like, if you were to pick like your top 3 things that you would like to promote change in, what would they be?
You know, I'm passionate about a lot of the problems that we have right now. You know, of course, taxes are crazy. I think here in Minnesota, we shouldn't have business taxes. It's done in other states. It can be done here. Real estate taxes. I mean, when we say we want to lower taxes, what kind of taxes are we talking about? We're talking about business taxes. We're talking about, retirement taxes, Social Security, income taxes, state, federal. They're all too high. And again, you talked about the career politicians. That's the problem that we have here. We have that that definition of insanity continually going on with our political voting. And we see, oh, there's a doctor, there's a lawyer. We got all these big people up there with these great degrees. And we think that they're smart, but yet nothing changes. Yes, they're part of that secret handshake society, okay, because they've been trained to manipulate. You get lawyers who plea bargain. They give up ground. Who do they screw? You, the customer. Basically because, you want to drag, these lawyers drag this out and plea bargain as long as they can and keep billing you. Doctors, you don't think Big Pharma pays them to say, push this drug? You don't think doctors made money over COVID while we're sitting at home? Why are they giving away this free vaccine and charging for diabetic medication? I mean, it's a placebo, folks.
Right.
It's not real. Okay.
Well, what really gets me about the vaccine is this whole, you can't sue the pharmaceutical companies. So you're basically pigeonholed into being forced to take a medication that may have risks that haven't been fully vetted. And you've got to live with it.
I've been against it since day one. I'm not the professional, but
who is?
I know
people who practice medicine,
right?
Okay,
but when you start talking about different things that aren't fully developed yet, never have been fully developed, and you don't know what's going to happen with it, well, that's what they portray to the public anyway. And they knew all the facts before it happened because of SARS. They've already tested it on SARS patients and everything else, and it was not a good outcome for those patients.
Well, it's funny how that popped up really quick and the vaccine was right there, but yet we haven't cured cancer. And we've spent trillions in research for cancer. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's not cured is because it's a lot of money being made in it. Yeah. And only one making money really is the big pharma and these politicians that are in there. So, for me, that definition of insanity just keeps going until we make a difference. And I'll say it a million times. If we want something different, we have to do something different. Otherwise, we're going to have that same old definition of insanity going.
Not to switch the topics and stuff like that, but I want to talk about our educational system a little bit because it's designed by the government, correct?
Absolutely.
And it's really all it is indoctrinating our children? Is that pretty much what they're doing, or do you see it a different way?
It's a brainwash.
It's a brainwash.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on all that?
Well, right now I think that our boards of education are using money to take away the parents' rights of what is being taught in schools. We're all brainwashed to think that we go to college, we're going to have this successful career and successful life, but yet we're getting college graduates graduating that can't find jobs right now. And again, it falls back on a lot of things, but staying on topic here is, how is bringing a transvestite into a first or second grade classroom something that is important to family values?
Right.
Okay, what is that teaching them? They don't even understand it. Why can't we let kids be kids like we did for centuries? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I mean, really, that whole scenario, in my thought anyway, is that whatever you do in your own time with adults and everything else, that's an adult thing.
You're right.
And when you're talking about all that, when they're going in there, that's a sexual, preference and behavior.
It is. It's perversion. I would fight for a teacher or a school system that allowed that to happen should be arrested and prosecuted and have their license stripped away. It to me is, again, I don't care what people do in their own private life, this, that, but when you start to brainwash these children, our children, without our permission, okay, again, that is where the line stops right there. And somebody's got to draw a line in the sand and say, stop, enough of this. And nobody's doing it because basically the people in power are shutting us out. And they're not giving us the information that when this happens, we found out after the fact. With education, with our kids, it's not about asking for forgiveness before permission.
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the parental rights bill that's being drafted in Wisconsin right now?
No, I am not. I'm Minnesota.
Yeah, so I figured. So there's a bill going forward right now. I'm not up to speed 100% as far as where it is in the process, but they were talking about it on the news just the other day, how basically it's a bill. The idea is to bring back those rights to parents. And it covers, having the right to say, I don't like the subject matter of this being taught in school. I don't want my child to be taught it. And you could opt out from that specific piece of material. It also includes like vaccines. And then it, of course, includes transgender pronouns, right? So if the parents do not approve of the child being referred to as something other than their birth gender, the school and the officials at the school cannot refer to that child as the other gender, without the parents' consent.
I think we have a very steep mountain to climb right now when it comes to education and a lot of our topics, to be honest with you, because right now the Democrats have outflanked us. They caught us on the wrong side, and they're beating us because they kind of infiltrated this kind of system where we weren't looking or paying attention. We're just trying to work hard like our working class citizens do, and we just want to come home to our families, pay our bills, retire in peace. But now, look, we can't even retire at 65 no more. We got to work till 75.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the problem too, is you've got all these people who their job is politics.
Yeah.
But for all the people, the regular people who want to make a difference, have all the right motivations and could be like yourself going into politics, they don't, because they're wrapped up in their own shit. They've got their own worries and their own problems that consumes all of their attention. How can I go and start devoting, hundreds and hundreds of hours of my own time, my own money into making change for others when I'm just trying to pay my bills? I'm just trying to keep my kids on the right path in school.
I think it boils down to so many people are worried about the wrong things. These little minuscule things that they're trying to push on everybody, the pronouns and everything else. I identify as this, or that. You know, I got a friend. He goes, just because you identify as a pair of sunglasses doesn't mean I'm going to put you on my face.
Right.
You know,
well, like with the furry thing, these kids that want to be referred to as cats and dogs. Well, okay, there's this that doesn't. You're not a cat. Get over it. At what point do you say, okay, what's the root problem here? We're not going to change and fix pronouns and people wanting to be called different things, but why? Is there genuine gender dysphoria? Okay, if that's the case, let's do what we can for that person, right?
I think there's
but is it also just trauma and undealt with psychological issues that they're just trying to find some solution that's going to make them feel better about themselves?
There's a time and place for those type of things, and I think that just needs to, when you're in your group, that's where it's acceptable. When you're out in society, nobody cares if you're married or not, if you're just going to the bank or anything like that, or your job.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. But we kind of got a little bit off topic there, but
it's okay. Yeah.
But yeah. So next thing is you are a big advocate about the police.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So just from talking to you earlier, and so if you could elaborate, to everybody on this podcast, what you think should be done and how to correct things or make things better.
Well, having a previous, felony conviction myself, knowing that, just things happen and you have to keep moving on with life. When I was arrested, I was top of my game in MMA. I probably could have kicked the crap out of a couple of cops, but this is what they do. They're there to protect and serve us. They're just regular people like you and I. Mm-hmm. They want to go out there. They get a call. This happens. I believe that negative attention brings negative attention brings negative results. That's just it. Yeah. So I did something stupid. I just kind of just own up to it. Just own up and get through it. And that's what I did. The police were all cool to me. I've met so many officers that deal with some stupid people out there. I mean, when you get pulled over by a car, you see some of these videos. I don't have to give you my driver's license. I don't need a license to drive. I'm like, who gives them where's the thought process is coming from, And so I feel kind of bad for the police officers because they don't get enough support.
Right.
And they do a great job with what the little that they have. And we need more officers out there to protect and serve. And if we did, we probably would have less crime. And going into crime, I have a plan to reduce crime my first year as a congressman by 30%. By 30%.
That's great.
No, by 30%.
That's a
and
lot.
And the reason why we're not having politicians do this right now is because there's money in crime. Mm-hmm. Okay, why put these guys to work rather than have them reviolate? Well, because there's money in that. They get taxpayer money to be put them back in jail. If you haven't been through a system and have gotten out of it, how do you expect to try to fix it? I would like to have these criminals. I'm sorry, I would say. Let me rephrase that. Not criminals. Politicians. Spend some, which are criminals, spend some time in jail, go through the system, and also spend a little time on welfare. How are you gonna manage you and your family, your life, on a welfare budget? How are you gonna manage going through probation with no driver's license and get a job and yet not violate your probation? The system is twisted. So, the cops' hands are tied. These people reviolate because they're forced to. They want to work, but we don't let them, and they want to drive again, but we won't let them. But yet we let these immigrants come in and put a big flare going, come on to Minnesota. We don't care if you're not an American citizen. We're going to give you a driver's license. How twisted is that? Our governor is a criminal. Flat out.
I agree with you on that one.
Well, and especially here in Minnesota, there's been this whole defund the police issue going on, and we've seen how that's panned out, right? I mean, it's been like a political social experiment happening right in front of us that just proves removing the budget is not the answer here. I totally believe that there's a lot of officers out there who do abuse their power, who do things wrong, who will put the screws to somebody because they pissed them off. But there's also a hell of a lot of good officers out there.
Yeah.
And more importantly, the change that needs to happen is not just cut off the hand that feeds. It's new training, new investments into the culture behind the police. You know, you need to invest more into them to vet this and to fix the problem rather than just chop it off and hope for the best.
Vetting is correct. So basically, let's say you have our leaders committing crimes. Why would the cops care if they did an infraction here or there? If when their bosses are doing worse or the same? You know, like, well, this guy is doing this, so why should I, you know, have my Christian moral values when I'm on the job? And, you know, maybe I, you know, will be a little bit more aggressive towards somebody rather than being cool to them or whatever. But you're right. There's a lot of police officers out there, especially more now than ever, because they are being watched on camera all the time. And I think they really just want to protect and serve more than anything else. But there are times when you got to tell you, you know, there are so many jerks out in the world. I wish there were more cops on the road, because how many times you get someone tailgating you, right, or cutting you, or you see them just throw stuff out the window, and it's like, you know, man, 20 years ago I'd have just, well, you know, like, right. I'm an old man now, so I can't really. Yeah. But you know, it's so bad out there. People have dropped the ball, and then they get comparative. Like, well, if they're not doing it, why should I do it? So when some of the senior police officers are doing things they shouldn't be doing, then it shows a bad reflection to the younger officers coming in, what is right and what is wrong. And so, I mean, there are a lot of good cops. I would say probably 98% of the police officers out there right now do a fantastic job and try the best they can. There are a couple that are just in there that don't care. They're in there to get their paycheck and their pension. And unfortunately, we can't allow that no more. We have to make sure we get people in that are really there for the job to protect and serve the people.
Yeah. It's definitely not a normal job, you know, and it's not going to be a normal person that fits that job. Well, it's just the nature of it. I think
in business in general now these days is that business owners, or, you know, people that the HR who does all that hiring and stuff, it's gotten to the point where they will let people go quickly now.
Yeah.
Because if they're not performing, because so many people just will take and coast if they can. And I think that should follow suit. Yeah. If you're going to coast, then it's time to go.
And they have, you know, the new monitoring systems inside the cars now to see where they're at, and GPS and cameras inside the car, so they're not sleeping in the job, and you know.
Yeah, right.
You know, but yeah, and most of the police officers do a great job, and there's just not enough of them to help each other. Yeah. So the ones that are out there just need more support, and they need a higher budget.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been proven, right? The change can be made. The town that I live in, you know, when I was in my mid-late 20s, it was known as a place where you're probably going to get pulled over, and you're probably going to get some bullshit ticket just because fundraising.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was also known that it was the second highest per capita police rate in the country at the time, right?
Well,
there was a lot of officers. They were really aggressive. They were usually pretty young, you know, and they'd just go and they'd give you a ticket for anything they could.
Sure.
And then I think somewhere right around 2020, something happened. I don't know all the details, but something happened within the department where there was a lot of investigations. There was this big internal affairs corruption investigation. Several guys got booted off of the police force, including the police chief. After that, a new guy came in, cleaned house, and now every single interaction I've ever had with the police, and everybody I talk to that's had any interaction with the city police, it's always been great. You know, we've seen the videos on the news where somebody was coming at the cops with a knife, and they did everything they could, beanbag the guy and got him down instead of just shooting him dead, you know. Yeah. And they've gone above and beyond multiple times now. You know, it's been shown to where now we've got a really good police force that's genuinely out there trying to help and do good, and is not just poking and looking for, you know, everybody's had that encounter with cops where you can feel they're just poking.
There's certainly been some cops out there that pissed off because they didn't make the varsity squad, and
Right.
now they got a little bit of power on their side, and they feel a little bit of power because they have a gun and a stun gun, and it certainly does do something carrying a weapon like that to your head, and you've got to keep that in check, and stay humble that you're here to help people,
Right.
not try to hurt them. Yeah.
Right.
So to go along with that too, because now we've covered the protect part. Now the serve part, you remember, you would see, movies and shows, but you'd even hear from your grandparents or great grandparents and stuff like that about how, they would be walking home or from the grocery store and it'd just start raining. Cop would give them a ride home.
Yeah.
So what happened to the serve part? You don't hear about that anymore. I mean, every now and then you'll see a YouTube video or a TikTok or something of a cop that stops and plays basketball with the kids and gets, gets a part of the community. I think that's kind of gone to the side. I think it's all just about protect now, and no serve.
Well, certainly is a short of anomalies out there of people like that. And what I mean by anomaly, it's hardly seen that people who, just put themselves out there. Like, okay, what could happen? I mean, and sure, if you pick up a couple people and they're walking, maybe they have a gun and something happens. But, really, what are the chances of that? But when it does, it's a sad thing to hear when they're pulled over to help somebody and then they're assaulted in some way or killed.
Yeah.
And so it is a catch-20 on that one. You're right. They got to protect themselves, first of all. And then they got to make sure that, hey, you guys need to ride home. Okay. You're not carrying any weapons, are you? So, and you can't put them in the trunk anymore. So there you I'm kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, part of the problem too, like I said, is everybody is so wrapped up in their own stuff nowadays. And inflation has just driven that even further down the hole where, people are stressed out about groceries. People are stressed out about things that 10 years ago was not an issue. 10 years ago, I never went to the grocery store and left thinking, this isn't as much food as I would needed to get, but I spent as much money as I could spend.
Yeah.
Whereas now you go to the grocery store and you go, okay, I want to keep this under $200, and you leave there with 3 meals and a bag of granola bars, and it's like, you can see how issues like inflation are just creating this like
stress,
smoke screen, right? That prevents all the other issues from even being addressed that realistically are the core issues.
Yeah. Yeah, we are, what's the word, being diverted in different directions. And you're right, the smoke screen is a good word analogy as well. It's just that the trying to make us forget about COVID. Yeah. And the things that they did. How about that group of people here, locally here, that got how many millions of dollars to a fake Feed Our Children foundation that never had a warehouse or kitchen or made one meal or even any kids to give them to. And yet not one of them went to jail either. Yeah, and you talk about the $18 billion that our taxes from our surplus that did not come back to us. What did they, Precinct 3 down here in Minneapolis is still nobody in it yet. It's destroyed. It's not built. What are they spending all this money on? It was not a people making decision. It was a party making decision. And they're taking that money right now to basically just keep on manipulating us in a different way and trying to brainwash us. We've got to really stay strong to our core values and our way of thinking, not be led astray. Watching the news, to me, it ticks me off. Is most of the time, you get mad.
Yeah.
It makes you angry. So I don't like to watch the news, Right now, I've been hearing they've been putting good stories on there. They're lowering the gas. It's like they're trying to sway us that, they're doing good. No, it's a lie. It's a lie. and they've led us to this point. They have been in there long enough. They have failed long enough. They need to be fired.
Mhm. Absolutely. They can say they're lowering the gas all they want, but I still paid $3.99 a gallon on my way here this morning. So,
So, a question on your thoughts, because I know nobody really knows in particular unless you're there. Excuse me. So do you think, because they're saying, no, we're not headed into a recession, inflation is going down. Do you think that they're just tweaking things to make it feel that way, or do you think we are headed for a recession?
Well, we were in this situation not too long ago, probably within the past 10 years, as I recall, that we're looking at a recession again. And it was right after the 2008 real estate crash. And then it was a little minor one after that. But again, they keep on trying to scare us into, oh my God, build the bomb shelter, build your safe room, whatever. They keep trying to scare us. And we end up all nervous and stressed out, anxiety. And what do? We go get medication, and we're like being sold this line of BS constantly, rather than just staying true to yourself and what you need to do. So I don't think we're looking at a recession. I think that, Donald Trump's going to get back in office. Yes. I think basically we're going to stop these wars overseas. Yes. I think he's going to turn the borders a lot stronger. Yes. And put people back to work. And the last thing we need is, have more people coming in. And right now, I think there's a total of 6,000 immigrants that are here illegally. And like I said, Waltz put up a big flare saying, come to Minnesota. And anybody, even without a citizenship, can get a driver's license. Well, basically, isn't that your citizenship?
Yeah.
A driver's license so you can get a job?
Yeah, because it's federally, you have to have an ID.
You have to have a social security card to get a driver's license. So how is that going to happen? I mean, so there's a lot of, double standards going on for the people that are here to the people that are coming illegally. And how is this even happening? How can you make that decision? I tell you, it's, you want to use the word crazy, but it's beyond that. It's absurdly crazy. How do you make these decisions that continually hurt us working Minnesotans or Wisconsin people? And yet someone who's just coming here, not only are we going to give you a driver's license, but money for a car, and we're going to kick out these students so you have a place to live in the dorms.
Yeah.
What in the world? Okay. You're paying for education and to live on a campus. Now you just got kicked off. What this way of thinking in our government has got to stop. Again, I can keep going on and on about why I'm trying to do this, because somebody's got to be in that room to fight with the other people like myself. There's, Senator Scott Coran, there's Warren Limmer, there's all these great senators on the Republican side. There's actually a couple of good Democratic ones that are a little bit more conservative, but there's just not enough. And you got a jerk at the top who's a bully. And the other ladies up there, like Klobuchar and our Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, they're bullies. And what they do is they force everything, and they'll have meetings without us, Republicans, and draw up and sign bills without our permission. They do these things. They block all kinds of good ideas to, again, just, screw the poor. That's what they're part of this whole, scam of basically hurting us.
Right.
And you look at right now of what's happened here in Minnesota with the new abortion law. You can actually abort a baby after it's born, and just leave it there to die. And I mean, this is just absolutely insane.
It is.
It's insane. The food we have farmers that are being robbed that they can't afford to farm, yet they have all this land. why aren't we paying them to farm and keep our money here? And you know, we lost our business with China, so we don't have much importing coming on. So it's not going back to this recession. I think what's going to come down to eventually is almost like a civil war. You know, we almost had one, right?
Yeah.
At the White House, we almost had one, but you know, as Republicans and conservatives and just American people that just want to live that American dream and just be left alone and just do their thing, we don't have time to go out there and protest and picket and stand in front of the cars on the highway because we're working.
Right.
We're working hard people, and the people here that the government has brainwashed. Stay home. I'll pay you $600 more a week. I mean, it's bribe after bribe.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, we as an employer have seen that.
Yeah.
Right. As the government started making these payouts, right, and giving people money, the work ethic that people have had has just slid right down the tubes because they're not motivated anymore. No. They're not motivated to get that extra $1,000 on their paycheck because they're going to get it regardless.
Yeah. I definitely, we definitely see that impact. And, you know, both of us being multiple business owners, you know, we see it quite often.
Well, how do you extend the unemployment when your money's run out?
Right.
You have a certain amount of money in unemployment and a certain amount of time that you can collect on that before you have to start working and kicking that back in, right? Mm-hmm. How do you extend that when it's run out? How do you do that? It's a bribe.
Yeah. Right. You know, Jesse Ventura, when he was governor.
I remember Jesse Ventura.
Yeah. But I remember we had a surplus at one time, and now we're way beyond where that surplus, you know, we're not even, you know, we're tenfold past that.
Well,
we're in the hole.
Why did we have a surplus?
Because we pay taxes.
No, but why do we have the surplus though? They put it in a budget, right?
Right.
They have their bean counters, and they're smart people, these smart degrees, do our accounting for us and what our budget's going to be. Okay, so they forecast wrong, they charge us more, and then they keep it. Now, you know, in business, if you overcharge a customer and they find out about it, what happens?
Giving it back.
Right.
You get it back or get sued.
It's poor business, it's poor government. Okay.
Yeah.
So when they forecasted like this and took our money and kept it, okay, for me, again, tough topic because, you know, here I was in business, lost my money. I didn't qualify for a grant. I didn't qualify for the PPP because I just started the business. And I couldn't get a grant because I was on the wrong corner of the wrong block, where it was not a disaster zone on this corner. But on the other side of my back parking lot was. On the other side of the street was. Because I was in Maple Grove, I was not considered a disaster area. Osseo and Brooklyn Park was. Which I could throw, even with my bad arm, throw a stone and hit that, okay? So when they forecasted for this and they made that mistake, they profited off their own mistake from us sitting here doing nothing about it.
Right.
Again, another reason why I'm getting in.
Yeah. I think that's, you know, that's part of the systemic problem, right? Is this ability to create your own demand within the government. You know, we see a ton of that like in California with the homeless situation, where you've got people getting paid $250,000 a year to be in a position to figure out how to handle the homeless situation. Well, if they handle the homeless situation, they're out $250,000 a year. So where's their incentive to actually solve that? Yeah. You know, and that's part of the problem is we have created this situation where if there's a problem, okay, then there's an industry to solve the problem, but that industry is incentivized not to solve the problem.
Right. So I do have another question for you here. I know you have a strong Hmong, Vietnamese, and Muslim support.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on what gain that support so that way
You know,
viewers
these are
know?
such good, hardworking people that come here the right way, fight very hard to become American citizens, and still, some of them still fighting there, but they're here contributing the right way. Now, again, what's going on right now at the borders is a sad thing. You know, Hispanic people are known as hardworking people, and the one thing I would like to do is get them to work. So, um, when, of course, I became good friends with a lot of these people in my community because most of them are Muslim, because they're Somalian community, they're African, and they're also Vietnamese. They're uh, Lao from Laos and Chinese, and a lot of them, they're just good people.
Yeah.
You know, and they just want the same thing too. They don't want this stuff going on in the schools. They want to be able to be safe going home, not have their kids be afraid to play outside. They came to America to follow that American dream, you know, and somebody's going to have to stand up for them too, because, you know, if you have kids, you want your grandkids to be able to afford a home one day.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
want them to not be afraid to walk down the street or play in a playground without a drive-by. We need to change this now. And if somebody doesn't step up and be that beacon of light and say, "Oh no, I'm going to go lock these doors. No one's leaving until we're going to make some common sense out of this," because this way of thinking's got to stop. It's got to stop.
I agree.
You know, I mean, I talk to a lot of people that also agree, but why hasn't it stopped yet? Because we keep putting these plea bargain lawyers, these pharma bribed doctors, okay, and we leave our politicians that are just, you know, they just throw us to the lambs, okay, and uh, they're in it for themselves, you know, they're in it for they sell us out.
Right.
They sell us out, and that's it, you know. And I will not give up ground. I am a wrestler. You know, we don't like giving up ground. When
No,
you
we
give
don't.
up ground, you lose the match.
Yep.
Okay, we do not give up ground, and that's um, the way I'm built. Jim Jordan from Ohio. We were state champs in Ohio together. You know, we weren't together, but he's younger than me. I was training for the U.S. team at Ohio State while he was still a senior there. I trained with him a little bit. Super great guy. Look at him. You know, he graduated from Ohio State, went to law school, didn't finish law, but he got into politics. This guy is the guy in Congress. That's the pit bull. He makes a lot of sense, and basically he's fighting for the people. You know, I mean, they had a little farm, in a rural Ohio. Well, they weren't rich either, but here's a guy who's, you know, coming from a middle class family, hardworking, little mini farm, and a wrestler that is out there trying to change and fight every day. You know, doesn't get paid much. I make more at my restaurant now than I would be paid as a congressman. Okay, and the time that we put in. Okay, so you mentioned my superficial background as things I've done. Okay, great. I wanted to write a book. I wrote a book. You know, I wanted to invent this thing because it was in my head, and I saw it through. And I've done some other great things, but this is my legacy. You know, getting in there and really trying to help people on a volume. The things I do right now that, you know, like I spoke to you about it earlier.
Yeah.
About, you know, I have a little fundraising thing that I do with the boxes that I bring home from the restaurant. I sell them on Marketplace for $1, and I use that money to help felons get to work. You know, some of them have to take a bus too, and late at night there's no buses running, so I pay for their Lyft rides, helping people become American citizens, helping them learn how to drive. I mean, there's only one of me, but if you're a person in power and that beacon of light, you can help in such a massive level. Okay, and we look back when we were kids. Especially I did. You go, oh my God, that's the governor. Oh my God, that's the president. We used to look at them like superheroes.
Yeah, we did.
We did. Now it's like, you
Right.
know, no, I want to be the guy when you say, I'm calling my congressman. And guess what? When you get a call or a letter from Brad Kohler, guess what? You're on the radar. And you know, you got to fix this problem. You're not going to keep screwing the poor.
Yep.
That's it.
I like that. And, it's interesting because I think typically the sort of general conception within politics is, the people fighting for the poor are the Democrats. They want to, give all these things to the poor, right? But you're actually truly advocating for the poor from the Republican side, and I think 99% of the people I talk to, especially in the state of Minnesota, are typically pretty centrist.
Yeah.
But yet the state itself is this far left-leaning government, right? And why is our government so far pushed to the bookends?
Because they don't know. They don't know. They don't have the knowledge or the grind to figure that out. They've never been through nothing. They've been spoon-fed all their lives, and it's all about, what can we take to give? Because you know what? When you don't put a limit on taking, the takers never stop. You can give all these welfare people all they want, but it's not correcting nothing. You cannot fix a leaky boat with a Band-Aid. You have got to fix it right. You've got to get these people the right education, drive them to want to work, show them that there's a better way. Because guaranteed, if you said, hey, you can make 3 times more money if you worked rather than sit home and have this kind of life. Do you really want it? And they all say, I just wish. Well, you got to stop wishing. Okay. And in life, we don't get what we want. We get what we deserve. If you want what you want, you gotta do the things you've never done. Okay. And so there's no one showing them this path. How to get off welfare? Sure, we can show you. There's Section 8 housing, right? We can do Section 8 housing and say, okay, instead of just taking you all the time now, I'm going to give you this much money each month, but we'll match it when you work. And when you get these people into these new habits and routines of working, okay, being productive citizens, and eventually wean them off welfare, you give them incentives to get their kids through education, going, hey, if little Johnny gets a B, we'll give you another cash incentive. If he gets, graduates high school, we'll give you another cash incentive, and he gets free state tuition. We have got to break the chains of welfare. Welfare is going from generation to generation. Am I wrong?
No.
I am right.
Yeah,
because
right.
It's an easy path. But kids, I just wish I had a car or a drive. Okay, if we incentivize these parents to parent, okay, we can break these chains. And what we need to do is get them a way to, that $18 billion would have been great for a program like this. Let me show you, single mom with 3 kids. Let's get you in Section 8 housing. I'm going to incentivize you to get your kids a B or an A. If they get a B or an A, you get an extra couple $100 a month. Okay? You think they're going to be more disciplined for that extra $2,500 a year?
Yeah.
Okay, between 3 kids, that's a lot of money. Okay, if you can raise and match what we pay you in rent, $800 a month, if you can make that in a legitimate wage, okay, you'll get free housing. But free can't come free no more. It can't come free no more. We've got to get them into new habits and routines. And the way, it's not going to be a quick fix, but 10 years down the road, 5, 6, 7 years, depends on when these kids graduate and go to college. How many college graduates don't want to work today? Right?
Yeah.
You accomplish something by getting that piece of paper. You want to work and go out there and make a difference, right? We got to get these kids to want to go to college. We've got to make them to want to finish high school. And it's a fact that higher educated people create less or have less crimes. There are less crimes with higher educated people. Now, don't get me wrong, there's white collar crime, but but I'm telling you, just to get a teaching degree or something like that, so they want to go in and do something that somebody that they look up to, inspire them to go through this process that we all gone through. But when you're surrounded by a bunch of people who haven't done that, you feel comfortable in that zone.
Yeah.
We've got to take them, uproot them in different zones and get them, into different areas around people that have that mindset. And it's possible. And it could have been done with that $18 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The thing that breaks my heart the most, that what I see in this world right now, is all these homeless veterans. It just crushes me every time I see it.
We should be ashamed of ourselves.
I wish I could figure out a way.
As a country, we should be ashamed of ourselves because of that. You know, here are the people who have fought for our country. And then, you know, I mean, you don't hear about a lot of women veterans that are out there from the Civil War on today that have died for our country. There are some, but certainly hundreds of thousands of more men that are sitting there suffering for what they have given us. Yeah. Okay. And, you know, just that, you know, respect, just that respect of, you know, not having to beg on the corner because they can't eat or pay for their medication. The very first thing that I thought about back when I was losing my gyms, a customer came to me and she told me about her husband was a veteran. And because of something happened to a house they sold 30 years ago to a realtor that they owed on this house, they pulled his insurance because there was a debt on this old house from 30 years back. Oh, wow. They pulled his veterans insurance, and Kim Klobuchar would not do a thing about it.
Wow.
She said, that's not my department. So when it comes to the veterans, again, there's not a group out there or a single human being that I don't love and want to help. And this is, it may sound nostalgic or crazy or something, but, you know, why wouldn't we want to help them? You know, right. I have been blessed with this gift. And if I don't use it, it's my fault. It's it would be bad if I didn't use this. And you know, you ever hear Les Brown, the motivational speaker? I remember one thing that stuck with me, of all the things he said and all the speakers I've heard, don't go to your grave looking up at all the dreams, looking down at you, saying, why didn't you bring me to life? Why didn't you do it? I don't want those excuses.
I think that's a good way to live, though.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't want to be looking back when you're at the pearly gates.
No, I want to give it all I got. Yeah. You know, if you have the power and the capabilities and certainly the passion to help people, that's okay. And some people don't. It's okay. I respect those. What makes me happy is other people being happy. I when people are miserable, I don't want to be around them. Right. You know, I don't. Like, okay, a little too much drama there. Let's what's going to make this person happy. You know.
I know this brings up a touchy subject for some people, but for me, not in general. But you mentioned God. Do you think there has something to do with taking God out of our institutions?
I think it comes from being in the house. You know, we pretty much mimic what we are in a lot of the times what our parents do. I didn't grow up in a very Christian home. I was in and out of Christianity my whole life, you know, and for me, it just was. I've had so many opportunities where I have survived situations in my life that going, why did I live through that? You know, why am I still alive? And, you know, apparently I have more to do. And you think how, you know, then you think, is there really a God? You know, and the more that you accept this and you believe in it, it's just, it's like drinking 3 Monsters. You just get, I feel the energy from it, you know? And, but a lot of people, I don't want to say buy into it, but it's hard to believe things you can't see, but yet we breathe all day, something we can't see. It's hard to have that imagination and, of there's an actual God watching us right now. And I think that where a lot of people don't understand the true definition of character, that, you know, you can't get away with anything ever because there's always somebody watching you then. So if you know that I can't because he's watching, and that was your mom or your dad or your teacher, that'd be one thing. But if you're alone and you think that way, that's what we need. You know, people having that more true character because of their Christian beliefs.
Love it. I know a lot of other people will love it that I know too that watch this. So, but speaking of, you know, some pretty hard experiences and stuff and coming to light, you were involved in a pretty serious crash at one time.
I was, yeah.
So yeah. What was that and what was it like?
It was quick. So yeah, I had a really rough morning, and decided to go out and, like I did every day, and fly my ultralight, and I let emotions take over. And again, as we grow, as if we want to grow, we can experience that, and you know, live and learn and do better every time. The problem is we don't own it. I pulled the ultralight out of the hanger, and I left the carburetor cover on as I just got in it. And you sit like a go-kart. The engine's above you, and the wings are above you, and you're in this little cockpit that's open, and you pull like a lawnmower starter for the engine. So it was actually really cool. I love this thing, I'll fly again. I love flying, and boy, I started. Everything seemed right. Just kind of like I said, I got to get this off my mind. It's just the wrong mindset at the time, and I took off, and all of a sudden I was losing power. I couldn't get up any higher, and I went into a stall. And immediately I kind of turned back to get some speed to land. And I came down really kind of fast and hard, and I hit flat. And landing gear kicked out. Again, it's like a little go-kart, tripod though. And I won't go into the gory details, but I had to end up having my stomach reattached. I lost a few feet of intestines. And when the prop came through the nose cone, I almost lost my left leg. And it was about a year of eating roughage, drinking shakes, couldn't eat real food. For months, I had to crawl to the kitchen to eat because I couldn't walk yet. And because when you're stapled from navel to sternum, your core is gone. Your stability of your whole body is gone when you lose your core. So think about you just having your, stomach muscles not able to function and try to stand and walk. It's really hard. So it was a really hard time in my life because I ended up losing everything. I lost the contract for fighting, and I lost my 3 gyms. I had 3 Snap Fitnesses, and I lost my home, and I lost everything because I could not, carry on the duties of a businessman or an athlete. And I overextended myself like most Americans do. And I was a go for it kind of guy. I pushed the envelope and said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And you think everything's coming. And then it was a very humbling experience that, all of a sudden you're up there on the top of the world, and, it just got pulled out from under you. And again, when it happened to me in COVID, I was in familiar territory, but this time healthy. So I bounced back a little bit quicker because I could, I was healthy. Mm-hmm. And so, for me, a setback is nothing but a setup for a comeback. So I'm that kind of guy saying, okay, thanks God, I got you. Thank you for letting me survive this. I'll do better. And, and I looked back then and I go, man, I had a lot of materialistic things. I had a big crib. I had a, track in my yard, a huge pool, hot tub, big barn with a collection, car collection. I mean, I had all these things thinking I was on top of the world. You know what? It's the wrong place to be. It wasn't what I was meant to be. And I had to be woken up the hard way to be shown it. And I caught it. And, I ended up having to do some time. And I violated a probation and went to the workhouse again for the, and, you sit in there when you're in your sweats and you're watching TV all day, and you're in there trying to reinvent your life. Like, at least I was, because I'm like, and again, I wrote this in my first book. It's called Prime. It's on Amazon. It's for kids and businessmen that have fell and failed. And, failing just doesn't make you a failure. Failing is just where you are right now. And there's the difference between a winner and a loser is what? A winner doesn't quit. Nope. Okay. And so I knew I've been up in life before, and I could do it again. And so while I was in, I put pencil to paper and I said, I'm gonna do something. I wrote a book, and it was my biography. And when I got to about 300 pages, I just did not like who I was. So I had to reinvent myself. And I did. When I got out, I reinvented myself. I was homeless for 18 months, and then I developed the combo hitters and the haymaker. I sold those out, opened up all the juice bars inside LA Fitnesses with my daughter, and changed my life. I said, I'll never mock another person again. I'll never be mean to anybody again. I stopped swearing, and I just wanted to be the person I was meant to be. And I had to be shown the hard way who I was supposed to be. And this all came into fruition with another failure. With, hey, I got this Christian group at my gym. Every morning we're working out. And we're talking about how are we going to do something great today to inspire people. And it just wasn't big enough. So I had to have that all taken away from me to go, I can go bigger. And I'm not one of those people who believe that a man's reach is just as far as his grasp. You've got to be able to reach for those stars. And you hear, these motivational things all the time, but we all put our pants on one leg at a time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody jumps from the second floor.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it's just one of those things like, this guy did it. Why can't I? And I tell people that I speak in the jails and the prisons. I say, I did it. Why can't you? I've been here. I've been through the system. I've been on welfare. I've been homeless. I've gone through it. I became self-made, and this time around, it's just, I feel good about myself doing it, and I did it through the right grind. And they say, if you take it easy on life, you'll have a hard life. If you take the hard road, you'll have an easy life. And the hard road is, it's honestly, it's easy to be good, but harder to be better.
I think one of the things that stands out to me about you and sort of the root of your success and your ability to rise back up from all these downfalls, right, is your mindset. You seem to have you're very set on action and pulling yourself up and not letting these setbacks be destruction, right? And I think that too is something that so much of our country in particular is missing. A lot of these kids and a lot just adults as well don't have that mindset. They get hurt by something, whether it's the government, big corporation, just bad luck, accidents, whatever it might be. And it ruins their life just like it did yours. But the difference is they sit and they wallow in it and don't take action. And they look for the easy solution rather than taking the hard road. So, how much of that do you think comes back to education?
Well, if you look at some of our leaders who have inspired, they've been an anomaly. From Reagan, Schwarzenegger, Trump. They have all done things that are anomalies, things that other people wish they could have done, but they didn't have the commitment. And it's okay, but to inspire people. Okay, so when you talk about the education system, who is inspiring anything right now? What are we inspiring? Are we inspiring anybody to be better than who we are yesterday? Mm-hmm. No. We have teachers saying, oh, we're going to learn about sex education in 3rd grade. Wow. And we're going to have little pictures in there on what a vagina is and a penis is in 3rd grade. How is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So how is that inspiring a kid to be a kid, have an imagination of one day being an astronaut or a pro soccer player, right? How is that inspiring these kids to become something bigger than what they're used to right now? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what we're having right now. We don't have teachers inspiring no more. I mean, there are a few, don't get me wrong. There are still some really good teachers out there fighting the system. But the ones that are coming in there today, I mean, it's like, oh, let's see how I can really screw things up.
Right.
Right. It's kind of, it's not funny, but it's legitimate. Let's see how I can screw things up today. Yeah. Let's see how I can raise eyebrows and piss people off by doing something that is totally off the beaten path.
Right.
Okay. So we need to inspire our kids.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a lack of it. they get done with school. They just don't feel the incentive or the goals. They're lacking of goal.
Yeah.
They just don't look forward to anything other than what's immediately in the room with them.
Right.
That's it.
Well, to me as a parent, one of the things I strive for, people talk about what are your goals for your kids, and it's like, oh, I want my son to be the starting quarterback of the football team. I want them to get a 4.0 GPA, get into this college. My goal for my kid is to provide as many opportunities for him to try things as I possibly can.
Sure.
I want him to have opportunity to try things because that's how he's going to find his own inspiration, his own path, and what he's passionate about in life and where he can make a difference and feel good about himself. Because, the rat race path that so many people are forced into now isn't healthy, right? It doesn't help us to generate those motivations. It all feeds back into that smoke screen that we were talking about. And what we really need is for people to have the capacity to say, this is wrong and I want to make change here.
Again, it's in the household with the parents. Okay. If 50% of the American kids went home and their hero was their mom or their dad, that would be wonderful.
Oh yes,
it would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
And what we're teaching them at home is, if your mom or dad takes your phone away, call the cops. Hey, if they discipline you and ground you, call the police. And that is a crime in itself. Okay, that is a crime in itself when someone is teaching your kids to call the police on you. There's nothing physically. I mean, if you give a kid a little pat on the butt and say, discipline, and it's not abuse. If you have a kid stand in the corner and do a timeout, now you're getting in trouble for that. Where does it end? And who invented this timeout thing, by the way? Anyway, I mean, it's like, did it ever work? Did it ever really work?
Well, Brad, you probably heard this from your parents too. You call the police, I'll give them a reason to take me to jail.
Yeah.
Well, back when I grew up, the police basically would show up to a domestic and say, "Enough! Don't make me come back here." And nothing would happen. So we're talking about the 70s and early 80s.
Right.
That were like, it was a little different back there when it comes to domestic abuse. That people got away with a lot, but. Yeah, it's a good change. It's a good change. But still, there's got to be a happy medium, not all the way from one to the way other. It's got to be a happy medium somehow where, when a kid's disciplined and stuff, maybe kids today that are carjacking, are, assaulting other kids. Hennepin County closed their juvenile detention halls, and the police have nowhere to put them. So what do you do when there's really no repercussion from what you just did? It's like, gonna be back on the street in 15 minutes.
Right.
Well, and our jails and prisons are full too.
Again, there's a method to fix all of this.
Yep.
And I believe what is broken can be fixed.
Well, I agree.
Okay. And we need to rally behind the people that want to fix this. And bring in people that really have the vision as well. And it's business-minded people. Because as business people, wouldn't you like to see, okay, we're this town's safe. We got, these felons are working, they're happy. I mean, they're off drugs or whatever. And the police force is, the arrests are lower. This is what we want. But we have to do it as a community. And there's no one person that can do this. But there's some way to be the tip of the iceberg or the tip of the sword, whichever you want to use. But it takes someone to have that courage. And I talked about this last night at my Northwest Republican Women's meeting, that courage is what my big thing is this year, is on the other side of fear is courage. And we don't do things because we're afraid. And when you're afraid to do something, then you do it, you go, oh my gosh, that wasn't so bad after all, right? And then you're like, you start developing more courage. And so to have courage to vote differently, stand up for your children's and your grandchildren's rights, stand up and say, no, the taxes are too much. stand up for, say, immigration is too much. We've got to fix this, and we got to stand up. We all got to have that courage. We've got to spread courage, and that's what it is. It's not an easy thing. Fixing this isn't going to be easy. That's why people are afraid to do it, because it's not easy. I like the hard road, and I have the courage to do it.
I don't think there's many people who fought in the UFC that will take the easy road.
I'm going to tell you what. This is scarier than the UFC. Okay?
I believe that.
Okay. You walk into a cage and go, okay, ooh, he looks big. Wow. Okay. Yeah, he's been training to beat me up. But this is nothing compared to the UFC. This is huge. This is a bigger fear than you have people that want to poke and pry at you and judge you. And yes, I have these accomplishments that mean nothing to them, who've done nothing in their life, but they're judging you. And that's okay. I'm okay with that, because I want to represent them. I want to show them I am the right guy, because, I've been there where you are. I've been in every aspect of my life, up and down, in and out. I've been days where I didn't eat for 2 days because I was homeless and broke. I've been there. But, I kind of see that clearing through the forest, kind of like most businessmen do.
Yeah.
And, in that, I see the path. Like, okay, I see this path, and I know where it's taking me to. And this is the path I'm on right now. And I believe that this was put in front of me for a reason. I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
I think success is just doing, too. You want success in anything. You just do it.
Well, again, you know the difference between winner and loser, right? The winner doesn't quit.
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, I lost the last election, and it's okay. I learned a lot. I actually have Democrats coming up to me saying, I wish we voted for you, because the person in there right now is not doing anything. Okay. People do want to change, even on both sides of the fence. There's a lot of great people that call themselves Democrats. There's a lot of great people that are Republicans. It's not about, whether you're one side or the other. Stop voting for a party. Vote for a man or a woman that wants to help you.
Right.
That's what needs to be done,
I love that. I get asked all the time, am I a Democrat or am I a Republican? I'll vote for either one if I like the majority and the person and the majority of what they're running on. The problem is we've been pushed so far to the ends. I don't want either one of them. And it's this, to me, when I think of what a politician should be, it's a normal person who's got leadership qualities and will take action on behalf of the people that they represent, right? And I think you are a good example of that. We can see that throughout your career. We can see that you are a normal person who's risen up, who's had all these struggles, that understands what the average business owner and the average person is going through. But at the same time, you're willing to put yourself into that line of fire, and you're willing to be the leader, and you've, in many cases, done a good job of that, And I think the country also is craving that, and we can see that right now. I don't know how much you still follow UFC, but if you're familiar with Sean Strickland and all of the stuff that's happened with him recently, as he won the championship and lost already the championship. But people latched onto him immediately. And it's because he's a normal guy. He says what he thinks. A lot of it can piss people off one direction or the other, but people want that. They want to feel like this guy who's way up there is not somebody who's always been up there. It's somebody just like me. Right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And that's really what politicians should be, because if you've always been way up there, how do you represent these people down here?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, too, is, like we keep saying over and over, but you have literally walked in everybody's shoes almost.
No, everybody has their own shoes.
Well, they have their own shoes.
I hear what you're saying on that, metaphorically speaking, but, there are some people out there with some serious problems. And, unfortunately, the only one that can fix it is them.
Right.
But, can I relate to a lot more of them than most politicians? Probably. And if they can see that we can relate a little bit more together and saying that, hey, look, I've been there. Yes, when I got in that plane crash, I ended up hooked on painkillers. Man, that was a rough ride, and boy, but I had to get off. It was just one of those things because that's not who I wanted to be. I looked in the mirror one day and go, who is that guy? And it was just one of those things where I know people like that think this. I know they want to quit. I know people want to be better, but there's nobody inspiring them right now. There's no beacon of light for any of them right now to make a difference because they don't care about themselves enough, and I want them to know that I care because I understand. I have not been in their shoes, but I care, and they can make a difference and change. They can come out of all of that and one day still do anything they want to do. That's America for you. And we've got to preserve that.
Got my heart, man.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think.
Come on, give me a tough one. Give me something you really want people to know about me. It's okay. I want to be that open
just
book.
Defer to our notes here. Okay, so we did talk a little bit about your brush with the law.
Yeah.
So, you care to expand on that a little bit and explain, what was that situation? What led you to be into that situation, and how did you learn from it?
All in all, it was a night where I was with my two kids. And we're in the car, and somebody was a jerk. And when you're, I'm not making any excuses up. I own this, and again, one of the reasons why I don't watch the UFC is because it's that mindset. I remember that mindset of having to be aggressive and intense all the time because somebody's training to kick your butt, and you've got to stay focused if you want to be good. That's the biggest stage in the world above everything else, the UFC. If you want to stay at that level, you've got to stay focused. And that's where I was that time in my life. And so I was not going to let somebody one-up me in any way, shape, or form. And it beat someone up and ended up in trouble, and my kids were there, and it just was one of those things. And I'm not regretting it. I regret hurting somebody. I'm not regretting that happening to me because, again, I believe God does these things to you that show you this path that you need to go on. And as long as you keep opening up your mind and your heart to this path, you've got to allow yourself to make mistakes and forgive yourself so you can keep moving forward. We're not human beings, guys. We're human becomings. And who are we becoming is still yet to be determined. So we've got to keep going, keep allowing ourselves to grow, and honor our God the way we should.
I heard a quote the other day, and I wish I could remember who it was from now, but I can't. But I'm going to use the quote anyways. Yeah. Maybe somebody could look it up and put it in the comments or something. All right. But basically it said that in order for a tree's leaves to reach heaven, its roots must grow to hell. And so the general theory is, in order to
that's deep.
Yeah, in order to understand, right? In order to understand, how to be a good person, you have to also understand the evil that exists and what can come of allowing yourself to feel that.
Yeah, if it's easier to see the light when you've seen the dark. It is. And when you have that energy from that light, it draws you there faster. But, the one thing people, it's a word called accountability that people are afraid of. It's not a bad word. It's meant to help us from sliding backwards. Mm-hmm. So if you can be that person, hold yourself accountable from sliding backwards and accomplishing the certain goals in your life every day, whether it's, hey, I got a list of goals today I got to do. It's make the bed, vacuum the living room, put the dishes away, go to work, come home, make dinner, and raise your hand a champion every day. You can check those things off and eventually keep growing from that. So that accountability of yourself and your actions, reaching the height of your maturity, doing the things you say you're going to do, be where you say you're going to be. Those are the things right there that will help you through all of that stuff. But I love that tree thing. It's the, you're right. It's, how do you know when you've been to hell unless you have been there, unless you've really, really been humbled in your life? If you've been humbled in your life, then you have to appreciate these good things. But then how do you, again, I wrote my book called Prime because of how do you keep your prime in life? It's through habits, routines, and rituals. If you are what you do, is that right? You are what you do.
Right.
So if we continue to do the same things every day, we are going to be something, right? We're going to be something better every day. Of course, you smoke crack every day and drink alcohol and swear and watch crazy movies, chances are you're not going to be too successful.
Right.
Most people do want to be successful, though. Nobody really wants to be unsuccessful. People want to have fancy cars and money in the bank and nice clothes and be able to go out, to a nice restaurant. They do. But again, without being humbled, unless you've been, on some kind of a silver platter and they have a what do they call it? The Papa's money, it's one of those things. Some people never have to work for that, but not many. Most people have to work for it. But when you've been humbled, and you really want to be something, you still can. And again, I go back to it. This is America. We have people that come out of nothing and become rappers and singers and dancers. This is because it's in them. They've seen the light. God has given them a gift and they're using it and become successful with that. And those are the stories I love hearing about. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did what you're meant to do.
Right.
So I have 6 popular names, not popular, but well-known names in my family tree. Okay. We have the Italian and the Polish side. On one side, they're all the athletes. Oops. All the athletes. Okay. On the other side was businessmen, politicians, and entertainers. Okay. And on this side are more household names because they were the ones who put themselves forward.
Right.
On the athletic side, there's a couple of people who have reached heights of athleticism, and also actors in my side of the family. But the side that I look at all the time are the McCartneys, the Kennedys, and the Kohlers. All 3 names. And one stands out more than any, only because I was really into the whole Kennedy collection, although we're not related. I really got into the whole Kennedy, John F. K. and Bobby. And I can always sit back and go, yeah, he was a Democrat, but he said something incredible. Incredible. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? And not just your country, what can you do for yourself? What are you doing every day to be a productive person in society and giving, your talents and your skills to basically be a great American citizen? Now, you don't have to be well known as I said, but just to go through the life and just being free, not just free financially, free emotionally, physically, psychologically, and just living what you want to do. Mm-hmm. That's what that's all about. I think about that. What did that really mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's probably a pretty good place to leave it.
Hey.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm not even sure how long we've been talking here.
That's a wrap.
Probably a new long podcast episode for us, which is great.
Yeah,
We're trying to stretch our legs a little bit. So
I think we, at some point in time, I'd like to get you back in other podcasts. I mean, it's fun to really, hear what you got to say and get to know more.
It's getting late and I got to get home, guys.
Well, before we do wrap up, though, I do want to mention you have another book coming out.
I do, yeah. Yeah, it's Prime, and it's called The Makings of a Man. And this, the first book I did on my own, I published on my own. I had my high school wrestling coach help me edit it. I made a lot of mistakes on this book, but I really wanted to do this because it was one of those things I wanted to inspire kids. You know, I went through all these trials and tribulations. I had a tough childhood, and I still became something. You know, it wasn't for me about making millions. It was about being successful. It's not about the money. It's about accomplishing goals. So that's what that book was about. This one here talks about from that book till today through my campaign and losing my business to now. And it's a much better written book. I've become a much better writer. The words are bigger. I really mess up. And the words are so small in the last one. It's like, oh my God, I got bifocals to read. You know, but it's but again, I learned a lot. And that's again about becoming something different. You know, so I think it's gonna be a good book. I think people enjoy it. I actually put more pictures in it. No pop-ups though, but I put more pictures in this one where I was in certain stages of my life. You know, back to when I was a state champion, to the UFC. You know, other photos in there of me and some of my friends. The house I grew up in Fairview Park, Ohio, and you know, some of the memories in those houses, what happened in that house, and then you know, my gym and things like that, and so it's I'm very proud of what I've written so far, and just to go into one thing that you probably don't think of very much in one chapter. It's called I won't go into it. You'll have to guess this, but what is the most important thing on a gravestone? It's the most overlooked important thing on a gravestone. What is it? What's
the legacy, I guess, or the
okay? What else is on a gravestone?
Your name.
Yeah. What else?
well, the day your dates, right?
Yeah,
Birth
yeah.
and death date, but then like loving father.
Yeah.
or-
What else? It is very important. It's the dash between the dates.
Oh,
Your journey in life represents that little dash.
your timeline.
And it
Yeah.
talks about how will people remember you if you remember it at all? Will they love you? Will they hate you? Respect you? You know, how will you be remembered? What was your journey? That little dash represents so much while you're here on this planet. And it goes fast. And it's called The Dash. That's a chapter in my book.
I'm definitely going to be looking forward to picking that
Yeah,
up.
I think I'm gonna. I'll be doing that. Just so everybody knows, they can go to your website, bradkohler.com.
Yeah.
And the social links are there and everything else, and you can find out more about them.
And please do. I would, you know, this is a very expensive campaign. I am not a rich person. I gave away the thought of being rich a long time ago and being a purposeful person rather than a rich person. This is a very expensive campaign. The Democrats outnumber us and out money us. And the person I'm running against is someone who's big on abortion and wants to continue to push that issue in Washington. And again, whatever you do for you and what you believe in, I'm fine with that. I respect that. This is just what I'm doing. If you want to support me, bradkohler.com. Yeah, I appreciate it. And if you ever want to email and chat with me, you can reach me at kohlerforcongress@yahoo.com.
Great.
Very good.
And like I said, I think at some point in time, we're going to probably bring you back on the podcast because it's been great pleasure talking with you and stuff. And it's been very interesting. I know there's so much more that we never covered,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
you know,
Have to get into some UFC stories. And
Oh man, I got so many stories from Japan and all over the world with all these famous fighters that you would just love to hear about.
yeah.
And they're all back when it was a very honorable sport and we could be with the guy we were fighting the night before and after the fight and have no issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was just great back then.
It was a sport.
We might have
Yeah.
to have a martial arts special episode or
Oh,
something
that'd
because
be
I
great.
think between the three of
And
us,
just
there's
focus
enough-
on that. Yeah.
There's enough interest there to fill an Olympic swimming
Sure.
pool. So
I'm friends with so many of those great athletes. It's just so good to bring up those memories too sometimes. So I'm totally game for that.
All
cool.
right. Yeah.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Right. Yeah. So I think we like Ryan said earlier, we'll just give it a wrap right here. And thanks for inviting us in your home and doing the podcast with you.
You know, Joe, Ryan, Angel Wire, I appreciate you having me. It's an honor. Thank you.
Yeah. See you later, everybody.
Autonomy is an